The KTM is on its way out. I figured I'd talk about it for a little bit in case anybody was looking into the 890 Duke R, because there's a lot of them out there, I would guess, considering everyone's panic over the reliability and KTM support, etc. So this bike this is a 2022 KTM 890 Duke R. It replaced the BMW S1000R. And I bought this bike because the S1000, it was a great bike. I always wanted to go super fast, and I had to take it out away from the San Diego area, more out east, to find roads where it could open up a little bit and do what it wanted to do. Um, it was still pretty good around town, but it was hot. You know, it's the same leader bike or, high output engine, problem. It's going to be hot around the city. It's going to maybe, it actually did function quite well at low RPMs, which is a complaint about some bikes like Ducati, Aprilia, and in particular. Um, but it was really also just time for a change, and I was going for shorter rides. So this bike was and is pretty awesome. Uh, it's got about 3,000 miles on it, and this is since 2022. So with I don't get a lot of chances to ride, obviously, with that mileage, but I was really using it for these short, what I call medium rides, where you go out for an hour, hour and a half to just blow off some steam, not too far from home. You can squeeze the ride in. You don't have to, go outside the city limits and, uh, get into the mountains or the canyons, because that turns into hours, which is a, different type of person that can pull that off frequently, at least at this stage in my life. So this fit really perfect. You go out there, it would blast around. It could, just blast off to work really quick if you wanted to. And it hasn't given me any problems. Now it's 3,000 miles, so I really haven't put enough miles on it to start wearing stuff out. But when the bike arrived, there were no issues with it. I didn't notice anything. The only thing I would criticize here is some little things. When I first got the bike, and even now, like this cable thing here, it's rubbing against the frame, and it's hard to, you could probably find a fix for it, but it's just, something that over time could be an annoyance, but nothing that affects the performance of the bikes. The sticker on this side is fine, but the other side started peeling off, and that's why it is gone. Other than that, I mean, it seems to be really well engineered. You know, um, it hasn't given me any problems. They just changed the oil, and that's about it. So the bike has been trouble free over that period of time. Um, did it disappoint in any way for these short rides? No, it didn't disappoint in any way. It was a lot of fun. I would say, however, that this is advertised as something that flicks into a corner really fast, and it does. It's super maneuverable. But I would say it doesn't flick in any faster than the S1000R, and I know that's noted to be one of the quicker turning super nakeds. But I was surprised it didn't turn in any faster. I was expecting, not that I really needed that. What it does lose out on is some corner stability. Um, the S1000R, once you set it into a corner, it would hold its line with more confidence. It was certainly more nosy than this bike. You had more weight over the front end, and you could feel it, and I felt more confident once you get it settled into a corner. And I felt it on the road, especially longer sweeping corners, which once again you have to travel to meet around here. So I'm not encountering that a whole heck of a lot. And I noticed it at that, the one track day I brought this to, that it wasn't quite as stable or confidence inspiring at speed in a corner as the S1000R, which isn't, that surprising. That bike is more closer on the continuum, to a full sport bike in terms of your positioning than this one was and is. Comfort, without shoes, like 6'1.5". And I didn't change. These are the stock, pegs. The seat, I got a comfort seat to spread my knees out a little more and also give me a little more cushion, which is great. This comfort seat is awesome. It's firm but supportive and well made. And I had never got off this bike with sore knees. I don't go on really long rides with this for reasons I'll get into, but it was never a complaint. Whereas in the BMW, certainly I would just, the legs would start cramping. The positioning was definitely more crunched up. But I think if you're my height or anywhere shorter, you're going to be perfectly happy with the leg position on this bike. The handlebars, I don't like. This sort of, this bend backwards towards the rider here. I'm not sure what this angle is, but this is a stock bar, and it forces you to be a bit of a T-Rex. And maybe it's just me and my build, but it with this angle, it forces your elbows in. If you go out, it's just this weird angle where all the weight is on this part here, and it's just, that's very subjective, of course. But if I did keep the bike longer, I'd probably wind up going with the bar that's less of a bend. I'm sure that could be fairly easily remedied, but you got to find the right length, of course. You got to fit all this other equipment onto the bar, so it would be a tedious thing to go through. But for comfort, pretty darn great. And I would say for most of us, that you spend more time on the street than the track, which is just about everybody. That would be even watching a video like this. You're going to be going at these slow speeds around town just to get where you're going to go. There's red lights, there's traffic, in and out of parking lots, and you're running low revs and just coming off the throttle gently in a lot of instances. And this behaved wonderfully in that environment. You could bring it, the modes, you can bring down to road mode that made the throttle less sensitive. Yes, in track mode or sport mode, the throttle is pretty twitchy, but it's also kind of fun. But it wasn't hot at all. I never felt like this bike was heating up on me. And, it's just a great all around. It can handle a lot of things. And I'm not disappointed in the motorcycle at all. So if you see one of these, I'm going to sell this, for example. I'm trading it wholesale because I just didn't want to spend the time dealing with bargaining and everything else. The extra money I would get from a private sale isn't really worth the time in my particular case. But the price I'm selling this for wholesale, and thinking what these might be going for in a very, very good condition with very low miles on it, it seems like a really good buy. The only thing I can't say, of course, is what happens up to 5,000 miles or 10,000 miles in terms of reliability, and hopefully there's other resources for that. But I know they made some changes to these bikes from 2020 into the 2022 year, 2021 year even, that may have enhanced that any engine issues that were brought up. But I have not had any oil leaks. There's no puddles in the ground. There's no suspicious liquid. There's no misbehaving. I don't use my quick shifter at super low RPMs. I just don't think they're designed to be used that way. So in that context, I tend to use it when I'm riding a bit harder, both up and down, and it doesn't give me any issues in that context. However, first gear to second gear, I don't use a quick shifter. It's just unreliable and clunky, and that's something to adapt to. The first gear in this bike is something I do not like. It's one of the few negatives, I would say, other than the corner stability. It's geared really short. So when you get off on a start, you got to change gears pretty quick. And so you're getting off on a start, you just leave the line, you get to shift really quick. I don't want to complain about shifting. I mean, you use a clutch, no big deal, right? But for the amount of power the bike has, I feel like that first gear is unreasonably short. And it would be nice if the quick shifter did work for that. Once again, at this point, after riding the bike, it's just something you adapt to, like all motorcycles. Those little things that aren't perfect at the beginning, you learn to ride around. And so it's not something I'm thinking about when I'm riding the bike anymore. But it is something that struck me as a bit of a disappointment coming from the BMW, for example, and I'm sure many other bikes that are leader bikes or V twins with bigger displacement, four cylinders. You're probably going to get a longer first gear, so when you're going, from light to light, you're not constantly shifting first, second, back down to first, and making that quick shift after a little jump, which isn't my favorite thing to do. I just like that long, smooth first gear if you can get it. But pick one of these up. It's a great motorcycle. It's light. Just moving around the garage, the turning radius seems to be really nice. Just maneuvering it in a parking, it's super user friendly. And I'm not getting rid of it because of those couple of negatives I had mentioned. I'm getting rid of it because I'm not getting any younger, and I want to feel something different. I've always wanted an Aprilia Tuono, another four-cylinder bike, something Italian, something more exotic, just to get it out of my system. And I'm pretty sure that as much as I'm going to like certain aspects of that bike, I'm going to wind up either back towards something like this or something more in the touring realm, because that's where a lot of people wind up eventually, unless you go into the track on a regular basis. Around here that means it's, leaving kids, going for a couple of days, between the drive and just getting there and getting back. So it's not practical to head up there very often. And then I'm also in the San Diego area, so it's only half the year where you don't want to face temps that are 90 plus out in the desert. So practical life things. But this is an awesome motorcycle, and it's just time to try something different. So highly encourage you to check this thing out, especially if you're someone like me who gets pinned down with work and kids, and you still want to ride, and you got some roads that aren't far away that you can jump on and get some turns in, and just giggle a little bit. It's really good for that. And then it's also great to just, if you don't want to take like a pickup truck out there that gets nothing in terms of miles a gallon, if it's just you and you're making a quick run, toss the backpack on and make that quick run somewhere. It's great for that too.